So this video is going to be a little bit of a departure from our daily updates. This is going to be a bit of a week in review. It's going to be devoid of any of these beautiful panoramic clips and the underlying music. It's just going to be me talking to you, letting you know how the week all went. My goal is to do this as a series, essentially every Sunday night, hopefully. So if really you're just interested in how am I doing, where am I at, by all means, feel free to skip videos 1 through 6 and just jump into these ones. That said, I also want to use this video series as a framework to answer any questions you may have. So if you do have any questions, feel free to pop it in the comments on these weekly review videos, and I will do my best to answer them in the subsequent week. So with that said, let's get into it. Welcome to my Hikification. So to start with, let's talk about miles. Over the last week, we did about 69 miles plus the 8.8 of the approach trail and stairs. So all told, including the 0 day of today, that's bringing us in at about 11 miles average per day, which is actually a pretty good start. I had 4 11+ mile days, 1 16-mile day, and a couple 8 thrown in. And as I talked about, I think I'm really kind of feeling that 12 to 16 mile range as my sweet spot now. We'll see kind of how we push forward this week. All told, the introduction to Georgia, we've only got 1 more day in Georgia, was great. The trail was really well maintained. They really look after it here. I have no complaints. The weather was absolutely perfect. I couldn't have asked for a better introductory week. Day 1, I was exposed to a little bit of everything, and yeah, the nights were cold, but kind of in that temperature 30 to 45 range during the days hiking. That's really kind of where I'm used to, and I can continue to hike without getting too overheated. So if it stayed like that all year, I'd be a happy person, although I imagine it's going to get hot and wet here pretty quickly. In terms of gear, one of the big things you see as people hit Neil's Gap and mountain crossings is they really start shipping a lot of the gear they didn't need back home as they realize they're carrying too much weight, and supplementing some of their gear for other gear, etc. I'm happy to say I'm actually quite happy with the gear I've chosen and how it's functioning. I've had no concerns. I didn't feel the need to swap anything out. There's a couple things still on the bubble, and mainly because I haven't really had those long days yet, or the extreme wet. So we'll see kind of how those perform as we go through their testing protocols. But all told, I'm still looking for ways to shed a few pounds, but I'm comfortable with kind of how the weight is staying on my back and still being able to get up those hills and back. Physically, my body's feeling good. I mean, yes, you're tired at the end of the day, you're sore at the end of the day. Stretching definitely helps both pre and post hike, and massaging out those muscles at the end of the day just kind of helps that recovery period. I am wearing those compression sleeves on my calves each night, and I think they're helping out as well. I did have some minor heel irritation. I would say it hasn't gone away completely. I don't think it's any real kind of plantar fasciitis. I haven't had to tape my heels yet. I do think it's probably I'm still getting used to the 0 drop of the Ultra 3.5 or the Ultra Lone Peak 3.5 shoes, and so that's probably still causing a little bit of irritation. Nothing which is causing pain or discomfort, just something that you notice. So the only 2 areas that I would say keeping a close eye on, well, one is less important. It is my elbows. Coming out of the end of the day Saturday, they were a little bit sore, and again, that was that downward motion that I just think they're not used to. Now, not critical to the hike, but I guarantee going up those hills without the benefit of those trekking poles giving you that little extra leverage would be a little bit more challenging. So I want to make sure those I don't overuse them or cause any injury in these early days. The other, and probably more the reason for the 0 day, is really just keeping an eye on my knee. I mean, I'm old, we are prone to more knee soreness. And so it's nothing where it's actually painful, but there is a soreness that's noticeable, especially on those downhills. And so I just want to take a little bit of a preventative measure, have a chance to leave my leg elevated for a day, ice it, the typical rice recipe: rest, ice, compression, and elevation. So I was feeling quite good this evening. Hopefully tomorrow when we hit the trail, we'll be back into normal mode. In terms of the mental game, I'm, knock on wood, I'm feeling really mentally strong. I have a hard time fathoming how such a significant portion of people quit outside of injury or those physical components at Neil's Gap or on or around. I mean, yes, it's tough, but I've just enjoyed every moment of it. Now, granted, I have been incredibly fortunate, I think, in the week that I've chosen to start. Having not to go through 5 straight days of miserable cold and wet where you're constantly soaked, where almost every view save Springer Mountain has been clear and I can see for miles and miles, making those uphill climbs worthwhile. I know that's not going to continue forever, but I'm sure that's playing a component in my very positive mental well-being. On the psychological side as well, I guess that probably lends into people. There are a lot of people out there. I'm comfortable though hiking by myself during the day. You pass one or two here and there, maybe there's somebody at the lunch stop, but it is still a very solo journey, which is kind of what I was looking for. At camp at night, you are clearly in the bubble. And it is quite an eclectic group. I've enjoyed interacting and getting to know quite a few of them. It's very casual at this particular juncture, and I've used more the meal time to have those interactions and start to get to know the group. It's just been so cold, and I'm, as an introvert, not quite as inclined to hang out by the fire for 3 hours before going to bed. I tend to get under the sleeping quilt by 7, edit the videos, and kind of get to sleep pretty quickly. So great people, and I'm sure as we kind of move forward, some of those relationships will continue to evolve and bond, and I'll see more people and more common tendencies as we go forward, and we kind of figure out who more matches my hiking style, personality, etc. Or, maybe we just keep bouncing around, and that's fine too. Couple things, learnings, a couple things I want to be a little bit cognizant of as I go forward, at least kind of as a skills hiking component is concerned. One is food. I definitely completely overpack my food, have taken way too much, more than I need. Now granted, I have not been as hungry and I have had to force myself to eat a little bit more, just like everybody, to maintain a little bit of those calories. But that said, I'm still carrying 2 days extra into Neil's Gap, and here in Hiawassee I probably have another 2 days as well that I didn't need or used, and so it's just being carried forward an extra weight. So I need to kind of figure out what I like, how much I require, and trim that down a little bit closer to the bone while still leaving a little bit of a buffer for a safety factor, just to eliminate a couple pounds. The other component is water. I am consistently carrying way too much water through the course of the day, and water is probably the heaviest thing in my bag right now. Having both kind of a full 1 liter plus kind of the 750 liter bottle that I've been drinking out of. And I say I'm carrying too much because the water sources thus far have been very plentiful. You're not going to go more than a couple miles without running by another place where you can fill up. So technically I could probably just use my 1 drinking bottle and fill it up as I need it as it starts to get empty at that next water source. I think part of the reason I've been a little bit hesitant to do that and I'm carrying a little bit more is I do feel a bit of a time crunch during the day. And part of it is just, it's the bubble, and I have this desire to get to camp a little bit ahead of some other people so that I can find that spot. That's just a mental thing I have to get over, and I'm sure as I get a little bit more comfortable, that'll kind of evolve itself. The other thing with the water is I do have to hydrate more and stop and drink more. I'm probably drinking about 3 or 4 liters a day, and I should be double if not triple that, especially with some of those amount of exertion I'm putting forward in those uphills. So I really, going forward, need to track how much I'm drinking and up that capacity a little bit. Next thing I want to touch on is the videos. I've enjoyed making the videos, and the editing has actually got a little bit quicker video by video. It's still taking a little bit longer than what I've anticipated. As it stands right now, I'm happy to do it because I am getting to camp a little bit earlier. Now, as we look forward and I'm doing those longer days, those 12, 14-hour days, well, 12-hour days of hiking where you're getting in right at as starting to get dark, you don't have that hour of extra time to edit every night. I'm going to have to streamline my workflow process a little bit as we go forward. But right now, I'm liking what I'm putting out. I'm still struggling with sound a little bit. It's bumping around a bit, and my mic isn't performing quite the way I thought it was going to, especially with any hint of wind. The sound just goes right off. So I don't know, we'll have to work on that a little bit as we go forward, and the volume's kind of jumping around a bit. Gets a bit aggravating, so I encourage you to bear with me as I kind of figure that out. The other thing on the videoing that I'm noticing is I'm taking a lot of shots and trying to get the scenes in, and there's some of me talking as well. I'm not taking as many of those stop, set up the tripod, walk past shots. I'm sure those will come and get kind of intermixed in the videos. I am noticing though, as a vlogger, I'm very shy. When there's people around, I'm comfortable taking scenic views, but I'm not talking. And I'm not filming any other people. I, for one, don't want to kind of step into their space. And 2, I'm just kind of in my own mindset right now. And so this vlogging enterprise is a little bit more of a private moment currently. And so when I think of the vision that I want for these videos in the future, it is a little bit more encompassing. It is also inclusive of everything I'm experiencing, and that should include some of the social aspects. So I do hope in the future to start including a little bit more of my surroundings when there are people around, and not just holding it for those isolated moments. We'll see where that comfort level lies though. So I guess at the end of the day, I'm doing well. I couldn't be more thrilled with where I'm at and what we've accomplished. I know I've got a tough road ahead, and somebody actually asked me the other day if I'm having fun yet. And I am awestruck constantly, and I'm tired constantly. But I'm racking my brain as to whether this is fun. Because it's not fun in the typical concept of what you think in like a sporting event or kind of pure entertainment. But it's fun in a whole other sense. And so fun is really not quite the right verb to capture the experience that I'm going through, at least in this first week. Which is not to say that I'm lacking any sort of enjoyment whatsoever, but it's just not how I would qualify it. I'm going to have to think about just the right term. Anyway, so that's where I'm at. Hopefully that provides a little bit of perspective. Like I say, tomorrow we're coming out of Georgia, and Georgia has been the perfect introduction to the Appalachian Trail. I'm very happy I chose to do 0 day here in Hiawassee. The people here have been very friendly. Everybody I've met on the trail thus far have just really been incredible. There's been zero pretense. Everybody's just there to support everybody. It's kind of an interesting community, and one I'm grateful to be part of. Till next time, hike on.